The small alien ship moved quietly through the dark space near the Kepler 442 system. Inside, Commander Zekthor sat in his chair, watching the screens that showed empty space and distant stars. He had been here for 3 weeks, doing the same boring job he always did. Watch the humans. Count their ships. Write reports. Nothing ever changed. The humans were weak. Everyone knew that. They had just learned how to travel faster than light a few years ago. Their weapons were basic. Their ships were slow. The Vorath Empire had been watching them for decades, and the reports always said the same thing. Primitive, harmless, not worth worrying about. Zekthor looked at his assistant, Velthar, who was checking the sensor equipment. The younger Vorath was good at his job, even if he worried too much about small things. Right now he looked calm. That was good. It meant another quiet day of watching a boring planet full of boring creatures. "Commander?" Velthar said suddenly. His voice sounded strange, worried. Zekthor turned to look at him. "What is it?" "I'm seeing something on the sensors. At the edge of the system. There are ships. Many ships." Velthar's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "The energy readings are very high. Much higher than they should be." Zekthor felt a cold feeling in his chest. He moved to look at Velthar's screen. The numbers there made no sense. Hundreds of ships, all giving off power readings that were impossible for human technology. "Check the sensors again," Zekthor ordered. "There must be a mistake." Velthar checked everything twice, then 3 times. "No mistake, Commander. The readings are correct. There are human ships out there, hundreds of them, and their power levels are far beyond what our reports said they could achieve." Zekthor's 4 eyes went wide. This was wrong. All wrong. The last intelligence report about humans had come in just a few months ago. It said they had maybe 50 ships total, small ones, weak ones, not these monsters his sensors were showing him. "Show me," Zekthor said quietly. The main screen changed. What Zekthor saw made his blood feel like ice water. Ships. So many ships. They stretched across space like a wall of metal and fire. Each one was covered in weapons. The energy coming from those weapons made the Vorath ship's own weapons look like toys. The biggest ship sat in the front. It had a name written on its side in human letters. UES Defiance. The name seemed to challenge anyone who saw it. "Come and try. We dare you." On that big ship, a human named John Harper stood on the bridge. He was the captain. At 47 years old, he had spent most of his life in space. His face showed the marks of someone who had seen hard times but never backed down from them. His crew respected him. Some even feared him a little. "Lieutenant, tell me what you see," Harper said. His voice was calm and steady, like he was asking about the weather. Kate Sullivan sat at the weapons station. She was 32 years old with red hair pulled back tight. Her fingers moved over the controls with practiced ease. "All ships are ready, Captain. We have the system locked down completely. The alien scout is at coordinate 77 Alpha. They definitely see us now." Harper nodded slowly. He had expected this. The Vorath had been spying on Earth for years. Now it was time to show them that the little humans they had been watching had grown up. Grown up fast. Grown up strong. "Open a communication channel," Harper ordered. "Let's talk to them." Peter Blake, a young man of 23 who still looked like a boy, pressed some buttons. "Channel is open, sir." Harper stepped forward. Every eye on the bridge turned to him. He took a breath and spoke with a voice that carried authority. "Attention, Vorath vessel. This is Captain John Harper of the United Earthship Defiance. You have entered restricted human space without permission. Power down your weapons and prepare to leave this system under our escort. This is your only warning." The words traveled across space to the small scout ship. Inside, Zekthor heard them and felt his hearts beating fast. The human spoke like someone who had power. Real power. Not the voice of a primitive creature. This was the voice of someone who knew he could back up his words with force. "Sir, what do we do?" Velthar asked. His voice shook a little. Zekthor thought quickly. His mission was to gather information and report back. He could not fight. His small ship had no chance against even one of those human warships, let alone hundreds. The smart choice was clear. "Set course for the jump point," Zekthor said. "Maximum speed. We need to get out of here and warn the High Command." Velthar's fingers flew over the controls. The scout ship's engines powered up to full strength. The ship began to turn away from the human fleet, pointing toward the edge of the system where they could jump to faster than light, speed and escape. But then something happened that Thor would remember for the rest of his life. The space around his ship began to shimmer and glow. It looked like heat waves on a hot day, but in the cold emptiness of space. The glow grew brighter and spread out in all directions. Within seconds, it had formed a barrier that surrounded the entire star system. Thor's ship hit that barrier like a bird flying into a window. The engines screamed. Alarms started ringing. The whole ship shook and rattled. But they did not go through. They could not go through. What is that? Thor shouted over the noise of the alarms. Belthar was reading his instruments with growing horror. Commander, it's some kind of energy field. It's blocking our engines. We cannot jump to faster than light speed. We cannot even use our normal engines at full power. We're trapped. Trapped? How? What kind of technology is this? I don't know, Commander. I have never seen anything like it. The energy readings suggest it's bending space itself. This is far beyond what the Vorath Empire can do. This is far beyond what anyone can do. Thor sat down hard in his chair. His mind raced. The humans had not just improved their technology a little bit. They had not just built some better ships. They had somehow jumped ahead by hundreds, maybe thousands of years. They had technology that made the Vorath Empire look primitive. On the Defiance, Gary Lewis smiled at his controls. He was 52 years old and had helped design the Horizon Field Generator. Seeing it work perfectly made him proud. Field is stable, Captain, Lewis reported. We can hold it for 3 days if needed, Harper nodded. Good work, Commander. Now let's show our friends exactly what they're dealing with. Prepare the demonstration package. Kate Sullivan looked up from her station. Demonstration package ready, sir. Should we begin? Yes, let's give them something to think about. What happened next would change everything. Not just for the Vorath scout ship, not just for the Vorath Empire, but for every species in the galaxy that thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were about to learn they had been very, very wrong. The Vorath scout ship hung in space like a fish caught in a net. Thor watched his screens and felt helpless. His ship's weapons were useless against the barrier. Every shot they fired just bounced back or disappeared into the shimmering energy field. They were wasting power and achieving nothing. Stop firing, Thor ordered. Save our energy. We're going to need it. Belthar shut down the weapons. The sudden quiet in the ship felt heavy and oppressive. Both Vorath sat in silence, wondering what would happen next. They did not have to wait long. On the Defiance bridge, Harper turned to Amy Watson. She was the science officer, 38 years old with dark eyes that always seemed to be calculating something. She loved her job, maybe too much. Right now, she was practically bouncing in her seat with excitement. The alien ship has stopped trying to break through, Watson reported. Their weapons are powered down. They're just sitting there now. Good, Harper said. That means they're paying attention. Let's begin. Start with the speed demonstration. Watson tapped her controls. Sending orders to Strike Group 3. Far below the Defiance, 10 smaller ships broke away from the fleet. They were destroyers, each one about 200 meters long. They looked small compared to the massive Defiance, but they were fast. Very fast. Thor saw the ships moving on his screen. At first, they seemed to be traveling at normal speeds. Then they accelerated, and kept accelerating, and kept accelerating. Belthar, what speed are those ships reaching? Thor asked. His assistant checked the readings 3 times before answering. Commander, they're moving at 0.7 light speed. In normal space. Without faster than light engines. That's impossible. The G-forces would crush any living crew. I know, Commander, but they're doing it anyway. The human ships raced around the system, making turns that should have been impossible. They moved like dancers, spinning and weaving through space with perfect precision. Then just as suddenly they stopped. All 10 ships came to a complete halt in less than 2 seconds. No drift, no deceleration time. Just instant stopping. Harper watched with satisfaction. Excellent. The inertial dampening fields are working perfectly. Next demonstration. Weapons test on the asteroid field. Kate Sullivan spoke into her communication headset. Ranger, you are cleared for weapons demonstration. Show them what we can do. The UES Ranger moved forward from the fleet. It was a mid-sized destroyer commanded by Nicole Grant, a woman who had fought in the colony wars and earned more medals than she had room to wear. She was 35 years old and had a reputation for being both brilliant and fearless. On the Ranger's bridge, Grant looked at her weapons officer. Target the largest asteroid. Fire when ready. Yes, Captain. Targeting now. Graviton Lance is charged and ready. Fire. A beam of pure energy shot out from the Ranger's front. It was not a normal laser or plasma beam. This was something different. Something that made space itself seem to bend around it. The beam hit a massive asteroid, a chunk of rock and ice the size of a small moon. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the asteroid began to change. Its surface rippled like water. The rock started pulling inward, collapsing on itself. Faster and faster it compressed, getting smaller and smaller, until with a bright flash it simply vanished from existence. Zekthor stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been. His mouth hung open. His 4 eyes could not believe what they had seen. They destroyed it, Velthar whispered. They made it disappear. How? They weaponized gravity, Zekthor said slowly. They compressed that asteroid until it formed a tiny black hole, which then evaporated almost instantly. The energy required to do that is beyond anything the Vorath Empire has ever achieved. The 2 aliens looked at each other with fear in their eyes. If the humans could do that to an asteroid, what could they do to a ship? To a planet, to a star? The demonstration continued. Another group of human ships showed off their defensive capabilities. The Vorath watched as hundreds of practice missiles and energy beams were fired at a single human cruiser. Every single attack was stopped. Some missiles were hit by laser defense grids so precise they could target something the size of a fist from 10 kilometers away. Energy beams were bent around the ship by gravitational shields. A few missiles got close only to be caught by electromagnetic fields and gently pushed away without exploding. Their defenses are perfect, Velthar said. Nothing is getting through. Then came the most terrifying demonstration of all. A human ship called the UES Guardian activated something new. The space around it began to glow with a soft blue light. That light spread out in all directions, forming a sphere around the ship. When test weapons hit that sphere, they did not bounce off. They did not explode. They simply stopped existing. The energy and matter just disappeared, converted into something else. What is that? Zekthor demanded. Velthar checked his readings, but they made no sense. I think it's a matter conversion field. They're turning incoming attacks into pure energy, and then absorbing that energy to power their shields. They're using enemy weapons to make themselves stronger. On the Defiance, Harper received reports from all the demonstration ships. Everything had worked perfectly. The alien scout ship had seen enough to understand what they were facing. Open a channel to the Vorath ship again, Harper ordered. Peter Blake activated the communication system. Channel open, sir. Harper's face appeared on Zekthor's screen once more. The human captain looked calm, almost friendly. But there was steel in his eyes. Commander Zekthor, I know your name because we've been listening to your communications. I hope you've been paying attention to our little demonstration. What you've seen is just a small sample of human capabilities. Zekthor found his voice. How? How did you advance so quickly? 20 years ago, you were primitives. Now you have technology that surpasses anything in known space. Harper smiled, but it was not a happy smile. 20 years ago, one of your supply ships crashed on our moon. The crew did not survive, but the ship remained mostly intact. We found it, we studied it, and we learned from it. Impossible. Even with our technology, you could not have advanced this far. You're right, Harper agreed. Your technology was just the starting point. We took what you had and made it better. Much better. You see, Commander, that's what humans do. We adapt, we improve, we innovate. Give us a problem and we'll find 10 different solutions. Give us a tool and we'll turn it into something you never imagined. Gary Lewis spoke up from his station. Captain, I'm picking up new ships entering the system. They're not ours. Harper's expression did not change. How many? 30 ships. Vorath military signatures. Looks like a full battle group. They must have detected the scout ship's distress signal. On the scout ship, Zekthor felt a surge of hope. Battle Group 7 was coming. They were strong, well-armed, and commanded by Admiral Korthvan, a veteran of 50 campaigns. The humans had shown impressive technology, but could they stand against 30 warships? Harper turned back to face the alien commander. I see your reinforcements have arrived. I'm going to give you one chance, Commander. Contact that battle group. Tell them to turn around and leave. If they attack, we will defend ourselves, and I promise you they will lose. Zekthor felt torn. Part of him wanted to believe the humans were bluffing, but another part, the part that had watched asteroids disappear and ships move at impossible speeds, knew better. I will send the message, Zekthor said quietly, but I do not think they will listen. Vorath warriors do not retreat. Then they will learn a hard lesson today, Harper replied. And I hope they survive it. The channel closed. Zekthor immediately sent a message to Battle Group 7, explaining everything he had seen. He described the human fleet, their weapons, their technology. He begged Admiral Korthvan to withdraw and report back to the High Command. 10 minutes later, he received a response. It was not the response he wanted. Battle Group 7 acknowledges your report. We do not believe these humans are as dangerous as you claim. We are engaging. Stand by for rescue. Zekthor slumped in his chair. They did not believe him. They thought he was exaggerating or that his sensors were wrong. They were going to attack the human fleet, and Zekthor knew with absolute certainty that they were making a terrible mistake. Velthar, Zekthor said quietly, record everything. Every sensor reading, every visual, everything. If we survive this, the High Command needs to see exactly what happens next. Yes, Commander, Velthar replied, his voice shaking. They both turned their attention to the screens showing the approaching Vorath battle group. 30 ships against hundreds of human vessels. On paper, it should have been a massacre. The Vorath should have been destroyed instantly, but Harper had said he would defend his system. He had not said he would destroy the Vorath fleet. There was a difference. A big difference. And in the next few minutes, both Zekthor and the entire Vorath battle group were about to learn exactly what that difference meant. Admiral Korthvan sat in his command chair aboard the Vorath dreadnought Crushing Fist. He was old for a Vorath warrior, nearly 60 cycles, with scales that had faded from bright green to a dull gray. He had fought in more battles than he could count. He had conquered 12 worlds and destroyed countless enemy fleets. He was not afraid of some upstart species that had barely learned to travel between stars. All ships battle formation, Korthvan ordered. Charge weapons. Prepare to show these humans what real military power looks like. His crew moved efficiently, preparing for combat. Around his flagship, 29 other ships took up attack positions. 2 dreadnoughts, 5 cruisers, and 22 support vessels. It was a force that had broken planetary defenses and scattered pirate armadas. It should have been more than enough. On the Defiance, Kate Sullivan watched the Vorath ships approach. Her fingers rested lightly on her controls, ready but not tense. She had trained for this. They all had. Vorath battle group is holding formation, Sullivan reported. Weapons are charged. They're not slowing down. Estimate 4 minutes until they're in range. Harper stood with his hands behind his back, calm as a statue. All ships, battle formation Delta, power up defensive systems. Hold fire until my command. Peter Blake sent the orders across the fleet. All around the system, human ships moved into position. But they did not just move. They appeared. Hundreds of ships that had been invisible suddenly became visible as their stealth systems powered down. On the scout ship, Zekthor watched his sensors light up like a festival display. Ships everywhere, big ones, small ones, weapons platforms, defense satellites, minefields. All of it had been there the whole time, hidden from his sensors. By the ancestors, Velthar breathed. They were here all along, watching us, waiting. Zekthor felt sick. The humans had not just surprised them. They had set a trap, a perfect trap, and Battle Group 7 was flying right into it. Admiral Korthvan saw the new sensor readings and felt his first moment of doubt. There were far more human ships than intelligence had reported. Far more weapons, far more power signatures. But he had given the order to attack. To back down now would be cowardice. The Vorath Empire did not produce cowards. All ships maintain course. Target the largest human vessels. Fire on my mark. The distance closed. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute, Harper waited. He could have fired first. His ships had longer range than the Vorath vessels. He could have destroyed half the enemy fleet before they got close enough to shoot back. But that was not the point. This was not about destroying the Vorath. This was about teaching them a lesson. 30 seconds to enemy weapons range, Sullivan announced. All ships stand ready, Harper said quietly. The Vorath battle group entered firing range. Admiral Korthvan raised his hand, ready to give the order to fire. Now, he shouted, bringing his hand down. 30 Vorath warships opened fire at the same moment. The darkness of space lit up with weapons fire. Plasma torpedoes streaked toward the human fleet like angry red stars. Particle beams cut through the void. Kinetic missiles accelerated to incredible speeds. It was enough firepower to level a city, enough to destroy a small fleet. and every single shot missed or was stopped. The human ships moved. Not slowly, not carefully. They moved like they could see the future. Ships that had been sitting still suddenly weren't there anymore. Torpedoes passed through empty space. Beams hit nothing but vacuum. The few shots that came close to hitting were intercepted. Laser defense grids lit up, cutting incoming missiles into pieces. Energy shields absorbed particle beams and bled the energy away harmlessly. Gravitational fields bent trajectories, sending weapons spinning off into space. Impossible, Korthvan whispered. How are they doing this? His weapons officer, a young Vorath named Sektar, looked up from his console with fear in his eyes. Admiral, they're predicting our shots. Their computers are calculating trajectories faster than our weapons can travel. They know where everything is going before it gets there. Then fire faster. Overwhelm their defenses. The Vorath ships fired again, and again. The barrage was continuous, hundreds of weapons firing thousands of shots. Surely something would get through. Something had to get through. Nothing got through. Then the humans returned fire. But they did not use the weapons Zekthor had seen in the demonstrations. They used something else, something worse. Blue pulses of energy shot out from the human ships. When those pulses hit the Vorath vessels, strange things happened. The dreadnought-crushing fist shuddered as a blue pulse washed over it. Every light on the bridge went out. Every screen went dark. The engines died. Life support switched to emergency backup power. Report, Korthvan shouted into the darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, giving just enough illumination to see. Sektar struggled with his dead console. Admiral, we've been hit by some kind of electromagnetic pulse weapon. It shut down all our primary systems. We have no engines, no weapons, no shields. We're completely helpless. All around the Vorath battle group, the same thing was happening. Ship after ship went dark as human EMP weapons shut them down. The mighty Vorath fleet, which had entered the battle ready to crush the humans, now floated helplessly in space. Harper watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Perfect accuracy. Not a single enemy casualty reported. Dispatch boarding teams. Let's secure those ships before they can restore power. Nicole Grant led the boarding operation herself. She stood in the drop pod with 20 Marines, all wearing powered armor that made them look like mechanical giants. The armor was black and silver, covered in sensor equipment and weapon systems. Remember, people, Grant said over the radio. We're not here to kill anyone. We're here to remove their weapons and send them home. Stay sharp, stay professional, and nobody gets hurt. The drop pod launched from the Ranger and streaked toward the crushing fist. It attached to the hull with magnetic clamps. Cutting tools sliced through the metal, creating an entry point. Grant was the first one through. Inside the Vorath ship, the crew was scrambling to restore power and organize a defense. They saw the humans coming and tried to fight, but they might as well have been throwing rocks at a mountain. The human Marines moved with mechanical precision. Their armor gave them incredible strength and speed. Their weapons fired smart bullets that could change direction in midair to avoid hitting anyone the Marines did not want to hit. They used stun grenades that knocked out everyone in a room without causing permanent harm. In less than 5 minutes, Grant and her team had secured the bridge. Admiral Korthvan stood with his hands raised, surrounded by human Marines who pointed weapons at him but did not fire. Grant retracted her helmet so the Admiral could see her face. She wanted him to see that she was human, not some machine. Admiral, I'm Captain Nicole Grant of the United Earth Navy. Your ship has been disabled. Your crew is unharmed. This battle is over. We're going to remove all weapon systems from your vessels, and then you're going to go home. You're going to tell your leaders what happened here, and you're going to make sure they understand that humans are not prey. We are not weak, and we will defend ourselves. Do you understand? Korthvan looked at the young human woman. She was small compared to him, weak-looking, but she spoke with absolute confidence. Behind her, the human Marines stood like statues, their armor making them look like metal demons. You could have destroyed us, Korthvan said slowly. Why didn't you? Because we're not monsters, Grant replied. We don't kill unless we have no other choice. You attacked us. We defended ourselves. We won. That's the end of it. Unless you want to make it something more. Korthvan thought about that. His pride wanted him to refuse to demand an honorable death rather than this humiliation. But his duty was to his crew, to his empire. They needed to know the truth about the humans. I understand, he said finally. We will comply with your terms. Good choice, Grant said. She signaled to her Marines. Secure the Admiral and his officers. Treat them with respect. They're prisoners, not enemies. The same scene played out across all 30 Vorath ships. Human boarding teams secured every vessel within an hour. Not a single person died. A few Vorath who tried to fight were stunned and tied up, but they would wake up with nothing worse than a headache. Harper received reports from all the boarding teams. All Vorath ships secured, Captain. No casualties on either side. We're beginning weapons removal now. Excellent work, everyone, Harper said. He turned to Peter Blake. Open a channel to Admiral Korthvan. A moment later, the Admiral's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired and defeated. His scales had lost their color, turning almost white with stress. Admiral, you fought well, Harper said. Your tactics were sound. Your crew was brave. But you were fighting with outdated technology against an enemy you did not understand. That's not cowardice. That's just bad intelligence. We underestimated you, Korthvan admitted. We thought you were still primitive. We were wrong. Yes, you were. And now you're going to go home and make sure your empire doesn't make the same mistake again. We're removing your weapons, but we're leaving you with engines and life support. You'll have enough fuel and supplies to reach the nearest Vorath outpost. Once there, you'll report to your high command. Tell them everything you saw here. 3 days passed. The human fleet remained in position around the Kepler 442 system, watching as their engineering teams worked on the captured Vorath ships. They were removing every weapon, every piece of military equipment, every system that could be used for combat. What would remain were cargo haulers, essentially. Ships that could fly home but could not fight. Gary Lewis supervised much of the work personally. He moved from ship to ship in a small shuttle, checking on progress and making sure everything was done correctly. On the 5th Vorath cruiser, he found something interesting. Captain, you need to see this, Lewis said over the communication channel. Harper was in his ready room reviewing reports. What is it, Gary? Their computer systems. I've been looking at their military database. It's not encrypted very well. We've already broken into it, and what we're finding is very interesting. Interesting how? They have files on dozens of species, all of them labeled as inferior or primitive, all of them under observation for potential conquest or exploitation. And here's the thing, Captain. Most of these species are more advanced than the Vorath thought humans were, but they're being kept down, intimidated, threatened. The Vorath Empire maintains its power through fear more than actual military strength. Harper leaned back in his chair. So once word gets out that the Vorath can be beaten, that fear disappears. Exactly. We might have just started something much bigger than we intended. Harper thought about that for a moment. Get me everything you can from those databases. Species names, locations, technology levels. If we're going to be part of this new galaxy, we need to know who our neighbors are. Already on it, sir. On the scout ship, which was still held in place by the horizon field, Zekthor and Velthar had spent 3 days doing nothing but watching and recording. They had seen everything, the battle that lasted less than 5 minutes, the boarding operations that secured 30 warships without a single death, the systematic removal of weapons from ships that had once been the pride of the Vorath military. They're letting us go, Velthar said suddenly. Zekthor looked up from his console. What? The energy field? It's weakening in one direction. They're opening a path for us. We can leave. A message came through on the communication system. It was from Captain Harper. Commander Zekthor, you're free to go. Tell your leaders everything you saw. Tell them the truth. And tell them we'll be waiting if they decide to test us again. Zekthor activated his microphone. Captain Harper, may I ask you something? Go ahead. Why did you let us watch? You could have destroyed or captured my ship immediately. Instead, you let us see everything. You let us record everything. Why? Harper's voice carried a hint of amusement. Because, Commander, you're not our enemy. You're our messenger. Everything that happened here, everything you saw, that's the message. Take it back to your empire. Make sure they understand it clearly. I will, Captain. And for what it's worth, I'm glad this ended the way it did. There has been enough death in the galaxy. I agree, Commander. Safe travels. The communication ended. Zekthor ordered Velthar to set course for Vorath space. As their small ship moved through the opening in the horizon field and jumped to faster-than-light speed, both aliens felt relief mixed with dread. They were going home, but the message they carried would change everything. On Earth, in the capital city of New Geneva, government leaders gathered to hear the report from Admiral Charles Peterson. He stood before the Unified Earth Council, a group of 25 representatives from different regions and nations who now governed humanity as a single species. The operation was a complete success, Peterson told them. Captain Harper's fleet disabled the Vorath battle group without casualties. We've sent them home with a clear message. Human space is off limits. Council leader Margaret Price, a 60-year-old woman from Australia who had spent her career in diplomacy, spoke up. And what do we expect the Vorath response to be? Unknown, Peterson admitted. They could back off and accept the new reality. They could try to gather a larger force and attack again, or they could take this to the Galactic Council and try to turn other species against us. Do we have any intelligence on other species in the region? Yes. Commander Lewis extracted a significant amount of data from the captured Vorath ships. We've identified 43 different spacefaring species within 200 light-years of Earth. Most of them are aware of the Vorath Empire and its aggressive policies. Some have been victims of Vorath intimidation or conquest. Price nodded thoughtfully. Then we need to reach out to them. Show them that humanity is not like the Vorath. We need allies, Admiral. We can't stand alone against an entire empire. Agreed. I've already authorized diplomatic missions to 12 nearby species. We're being careful, of course. First contact is always tricky. But the message is simple. We come in peace, but we're prepared to defend ourselves and others. In the weeks that followed, human diplomatic ships traveled to multiple star systems. They carried gifts of technology, offers of trade, and promises of mutual defense. Most species they contacted were cautious. Some were suspicious, but a few were interested. Very interested. The Kelrani were a species of intelligent aquatic beings who lived on a water world called Kendra. They had been threatened by the Vorath for years, told to hand over resources or face invasion. When human diplomats arrived and explained what had happened at Kepler 442, the Kelrani leadership was skeptical. You defeated an entire Vorath battle group? Asked Prime Minister Kelshaw, her voice bubbling through the translation device. Without destroying them? Ambassador Linda Moore, Earth's chief diplomat to the Kelrani, nodded. That's correct. We disabled their ships, removed their weapons, and sent them home. We don't believe in unnecessary violence, but we do believe in standing up to bullies. And you would help us if the Vorath attacked? If you sign a mutual defense treaty with Earth, yes. An attack on Kendra would be treated as an attack on Earth itself. Kelshaw looked at her council members. They talked quietly among themselves for several minutes. Finally, she turned back to Moore. We accept. When can we sign this treaty? Today, if you're ready. The Kelrani became Earth's first official ally. Others followed. The Torvan, a species of peaceful herbivores who had superior agricultural technology. The Nexus, a hive mind species that communicated through electromagnetic fields and had advanced computer systems. The Prin, a warrior culture that respected strength and admired what humanity had done to the Vorath. Each new ally brought something valuable: technology, resources, knowledge, and most importantly, they brought legitimacy. Humanity was no longer alone in space. They were part of a growing coalition of species who wanted something different than the old imperial systems. On Vorath Prime, the homeworld of the Vorath Empire, Zekthor stood before the High Command. The council chamber was ancient, built from black stone that had stood for 10,000 years. The counselors sat in a semicircle looking down at him with expressions ranging from disbelief to anger. You expect us to believe this report? Demanded High Counselor Mactheron, his voice dripping with contempt. That 30 warships were defeated by primitives without a single shot destroying a human vessel? I have complete sensor records, Zekthor replied calmly. Visual recordings, communication logs. Everything I witnessed is documented and verifiable. Another counselor, Velkara, studied the data on her personal screen. The energy signatures are incredible. If these readings are accurate, the humans have technology that exceeds our own by several orders of magnitude. The readings are accurate, Zekthor insisted. I checked them myself. Many times. Mactheron slammed his hand on the armrest of his chair. Then how? How did they advance so quickly? 20 years ago, they could barely reach their own moon. They found supply vessel 447, Zekthor explained. The one that went missing in their system. They reverse-engineered our technology and then improved upon it. They did in 20 years what took us 2,000, and they're still advancing. The council chamber fell silent. Every counselor understood the implications. If the humans could advance that quickly, what would they be capable of in another 20 years? Another 50? Another 100? Counselor Rekthar, the military commander, spoke up. We should attack now. Gather the Grand Armada. Strike at their homeworld before they grow stronger. That would be a mistake, Zekthor said boldly. Several counselors gasped at his presumption. A scout commander did not tell the High Command what to do. But Zekthor pressed on. The humans were very clear. They don't want war, but if we attack them, they will respond. And based on what I saw, they will win. They might even destroy us entirely. You think we should do nothing? Rekthar demanded. Accept this humiliation? I think we should talk to them, Zekthor said. Negotiate, find a peaceful solution. The humans showed mercy to Battle Group 7. They could have killed everyone. They chose not to. That suggests they prefer peace to war. We should take advantage of that preference while we still can. Mactheron looked around at his fellow counselors. The debate went on for hours. Some wanted war. Some wanted isolation. Some wanted to pretend the humans did not exist and hoped they would go away. But in the end, wisdom prevailed. Barely. By a narrow vote, the High Command agreed to send an ambassador to Earth. 6 months had passed since the incident at Kepler 442. In that time, the galaxy had changed in ways that nobody could have predicted. John Harper stood at the window of his new office on Station Liberty, a massive space station that orbited Earth. He was an admiral now, no longer a simple ship captain. The promotion had come with new responsibilities and a much bigger fleet. The Frontier Defense Initiative, they called it. 200 ships under his command with orders to protect not just human space, but any species that asked for help. Quite a view, said a voice behind him. Harper turned to see Admiral Peterson entering the office. The older man looked tired but satisfied. I never get tired of looking at Earth from up here, Harper replied. Reminds me what we're fighting for. Fighting to protect, you mean? There's a difference, is there? Sometimes I wonder. We've gotten involved in 3 disputes in the last month alone. The Kelrani border conflict, the Torvan colony crisis, the pirate attacks on Nexus trade routes. Every time we show up with our ships and our weapons, we're making a choice to use force. Peterson sat down in one of the office chairs. But we're using it to protect the weak from the strong. That's not the same as conquering. The Vorath Empire conquered. We're doing something different. I hope so, Charlie. I really do. Because sometimes late at night I worry that we're just building a new empire with a prettier name. That's why you're the right person for this job, John. Because you worry about it. The day you stop questioning yourself is the day I'll know we've gone wrong. A communication alert beeped on Harper's desk. He pressed the button. Admiral Harper. Sir, this is Station Control. The Vorath ambassador has arrived. Should we send her up to your office? Harper and Peterson exchanged glances. Send her up, Harper said. 5 minutes later, Ambassador Teklara entered the office. She was young for a Vorath diplomat, only 30 cycles old. Her scales were a bright blue-green color, indicating she came from one of the northern clans. She moved with careful dignity, aware that she was being watched by dozens of security cameras. Admiral Harper, she said, her voice filtered through a translation device that made it sound flat and mechanical. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Ambassador. Please sit. Can we offer you anything? Water? Food? No, thank you. I prefer to conduct business quickly. She sat down, her posture rigid. I have been authorized by the High Command to discuss the terms of a treaty between the Vorath Empire and humanity. Harper leaned back in his chair. I'm listening. The High Command acknowledges that humanity has achieved significant technological advancement. They propose a non-aggression pact. Vorath ships will not enter human space without permission. In return, human ships will not enter Vorath space without permission. We will respect each other's borders and avoid conflict. That sounds reasonable, Harper said carefully. But it's not enough, Teklara's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I mean that humanity is not interested in just protecting ourselves. We're interested in changing how things work in this galaxy. The Vorath Empire has spent centuries conquering and intimidating other species. That needs to stop. You cannot dictate terms to the Vorath Empire, Teklara said, her voice hardening. We are offering peace. You should accept it gratefully. Peterson spoke up. Ambassador, let me be clear about something. Humanity could have destroyed Battle Group 7. We could have killed everyone aboard those ships. Instead, we disabled them and sent them home. Do you know why? I assume because you feared retaliation. No, because we don't believe in unnecessary killing. But make no mistake about this, we are fully capable of defending ourselves and our allies. If the Vorath Empire attacks any member of the Coalition of Free Species, we will respond. With force. Overwhelming force, Teklara looked between the two humans. The Coalition of Free Species? What is that? Harper pulled up a holographic star map. It showed human space in blue, Vorath space in red, and scattered throughout the region dozens of systems marked in green. These are our allies, 16 different species who have signed mutual defense treaties with Earth. An attack on any of them is an attack on all of us. The ambassador stared at the map. This is impossible. Most of these species were under Vorath protection. Protection? Peterson laughed bitterly. Is that what you call it? Threatening them? Taking their resources? Forcing them to follow your rules or face invasion? That's not protection, Ambassador. That's extortion. Teklara was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. I am just a messenger. I did not create the Empire's policies. We know that, Harper said more gently, and we're not asking the Vorath Empire to change overnight. But we are asking for real change. No more conquests. No more threats. No more treating other species as inferior. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to coexist peacefully. And if the High Command refuses, then the Coalition will continue to grow. More species will join us. Eventually, the Vorath Empire will find itself isolated and surrounded by neighbors who are not afraid anymore. Is that what your leaders want? Teklara stood up slowly. I will relay your terms to the High Command, but I cannot promise they will accept them. The Vorath have been an empire for 5,000 years. We do not change easily. Then learn to change, Harper said firmly, or become irrelevant. Those are your choices. After the ambassador left, Peterson whistled softly. You didn't hold back. We can't afford to. This is the moment, Charlie. Right now we have momentum. Other species see what we did to the Vorath fleet and they believe change is possible. If we back down now, if we accept a simple peace treaty and ignore everything else, we'll lose that momentum. The Empire will continue its old ways, and eventually they'll find a way to threaten us again. So we're committed to this path. Protectors of the galaxy? Harper smiled slightly. Sounds pretty arrogant when you put it that way. It does, doesn't it? But I can't think of a better alternative. Over the next 6 months, the Coalition of Free Species grew to include 28 member species. Each brought their unique strengths and cultures. The Kelrani shared their advanced water purification technology. The Torvan provided agricultural expertise that helped human colonies grow more food with less resources. The Nexus worked with human scientists to develop faster computers and better artificial intelligence. But not everyone was happy about the changes. The Vorath Empire became increasingly isolated. Several species that had been under Vorath control declared independence and joined the coalition. Trade routes that had once enriched Vorath worlds began to dry up as other species found new partners. On Vorath Prime, the High Command met in emergency session. High Counselor Mactheron looked older than he had 6 months ago. The stress of watching his empire crumble was taking its toll. We have lost 14 subject species, he announced to the Council. Trade revenue is down by 40%. Our military forces are stretched thin, protecting the borders of our remaining territory. And every day more species join the human coalition. Counselor Velkara spoke up. Perhaps it is time to accept reality. The age of empire is over. We can either adapt or be swept away. Adapt how? Demanded Rekthar. By surrendering to these humans? By abandoning everything our ancestors built? By building something new, Velkara replied. Something better. The humans have shown us a different way. They protect instead of conquer. They trade instead of taking. They offer friendship instead of fear. And it works. Their coalition grows stronger every day while we grow weaker. She is right, said Zekthor, who had been promoted to counselor after his accurate reporting from Kepler 442. I have studied the humans extensively. Their strength does not come from their weapons. It comes from their ideals. Other species join them because they want to, not because they are forced to. That is true power. Mactheron was silent for a long time. Finally, he sighed deeply. Very well. I will contact the human leadership. We will discuss terms for the Vorath Empire to join their coalition. Join it. Rekthar was outraged. We should lead it. We cannot lead it, Mactheron said tiredly. We do not have the moral authority. The humans do. We will join as equals, or we will fade into history as a cautionary tale about empires that could not change. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Teklara returned to Station Liberty. This time she came with a much larger delegation, including Zekthor and several other high-ranking officials. They met with Harper, Peterson, and representatives from all 28 coalition species in a grand chamber built specifically for diplomatic meetings. The Vorath Empire wishes to apply for membership in the Coalition of Free Species, Teklara announced formally. We acknowledge our past mistakes. We commit to the principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and cooperative defense that define the coalition. We ask that you judge us not by our past but by our future actions. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species were angry, remembering Vorath oppression. Others were cautiously optimistic. A few were outright supportive, believing that redemption was possible for any species willing to try. Harper called for order. This is a decision that affects all of us. The Vorath have a long history of conquest and intimidation, but they're here now asking to change, to join us, to become part of something new. I propose we accept their application, but with conditions.